into different grades or degrees of skills, with the master mason being the highest, similar to a contractor or architect today. As Gothic architecture waned and lodges began to take members who were not actually builders, but who would take credit to the organization, were called Masons. Masonry, although it stresses morality and has religious overtones, is not religion. It accepts men of all faiths and creeds. Masonry calls itself the religion in and the religion of the brotherhood of man. See, belief in the immortality of the soul. The Masonic emblem, the square and compass located above windows on the second floor, was carved from hardwood for the front of the building. When it was built in 1874, Mrs. A.F. Greiter donated her hickory breadboard to be used to mount the emblem. The building was cost $1,500 in comparison. The brick courthouse across the street was built for a cost of $14,000 just 1 year later. The first public school in Bannock was conducted by Lucia Darling, niece of Chief Justice Sidney Egerton. The first classes were held in the living room of the Egertons' home. In the fall of 1863, less than a dozen students attended those first classes. In the summer of 1864, the numbers had increased dramatically, so a crude log cabin was built to serve at Lucille Darling's schoolhouse. 1874, realizing the need for a school, Bannock Masonic Lodge No. 16 built the combination lodge and schoolhouse. Classes were held in the building for nearly 70 years. The school finally closed in 1951 as a result of too few students over the years. Classes were held in various other buildings in town: the Gibson House next door, the road agent store across the street, and the church all served as temporary schoolrooms. Students who remember those early years of schooling in Bannock remember snow blowing in through the cracks between the wallboards. School books were rare and usually consisted of only what the family brought with them. While the majority of individuals coming to Bannock hoped to strike rich in the gold fields, many chose more stable occupations, selling their goods and services to the miners. It did not take long for Bannock streets to be lined with saloons, stables, and meat markets, general stores, and hotels. Bannock also had a brewery, a bowling alley, a billiard hall, dance halls, and houses of prostitution. Doctors, lawyers, and cattlemen, such as cobblers, tailors, carpenters, and wheelwrights, were supported the community. Industries such as freighting and farming and ranching provided other necessary commodities. Prices in the camp were high, but people generally had all the food and supplies they needed. Flour sold for as much as $40. A 100-pound sack of sugar, coffee, and bacon were $1 per pound. An 8x10 pane of glass cost $1, and nails were $1 per pound. Merchandising was apparently more profitable than mining. Granville Stewart owned a butcher shop, and when he left Bannock in April of 1863, he made approximately $3,000. Miners were making an average of $5 per day, some as high as $10 to $15. Wages were $4 per day. By the end of 1862, approximately $500,000 in gold had been taken out of the area. One of the first buildings in Bannock, the assay office, was the place the miners could go to have their raw gold analyzed. Its weight and value assessed. Bannock's gold was very unique. While most gold is 95% pure, Bannock's gold was found to be 99 to 99.95% pure. Most services were paid for in gold. Scales and measures could be found in every establishment. Greenbacks were rarely seen. This building was also the location for the Oliver Stage Station, and as gold mining declined, it was also used as a drugstore and a butcher's shop. The Gibson Houses, the large two-story building, was acquired by the Gibsons in 1890. It served as a rooming house for prospectors in from the diggings and was also used as a temporary schoolhouse in the 1940s. The building was called the Montana Hotel in the late 1860s, and smaller buildings was home to the Gibson family, but also used as a blacksmith shop for a time. Brands can still be seen inside on the walls in the smaller structure. In 1864, when the first legislative session was held here, Bannock was named the county seat of Beaverhead County. In 1875, this impressive brick building was built as the first Beaverhead County courthouse, but by 1881, the gold rush to Montana was history. Stock raising and agriculture were displacing mining as the main industries in Beaverhead County. Bannock was evolving into a humdrum settlement. Dillon, 25 miles to the east, on the other hand, was emerging as a bustling metropolis of about 800 people. The Utah and Northern Railroads had established a terminal in Dillon, and it was evolving into a flourishing freighting center. The citizens of Bannock fought to keep the county seat, but in February of 1891, the territorial legislature called for a special election in Beaverhead County to vote on moving the county seat to Dillon. After a venomous battle, Bannock lost the bid, and the county seat was moved to Dillon. The large brick building remained empty until about 1890, when it was purchased by Dr. John Christian Meade for $1,250. Dr. Meade remodeled and turned the building into a plush hotel. It became the center of Bannock's social activity and temporary home of many Montana travelers. A large kitchen, dining room, and living quarters were added to the back of the hotel. The dining room was filled with tables to seat 4 or 6 and could be rearranged for larger parties. Beautiful white linens graced the tables along with fine china. The Hotel Meade continued in use for many years, abandoned at times, only to reopen to meet the needs of Bannock. Each time mining activity in the area revived. The hotel operated off and on until 1940s. The Goodrich Hotel stood on this site and is thought to be the first commercial hotel in Montana. It provided shelter for many Bannock First inhabitants. In the late 1940s, the front of the building was removed and moved to Virginia City. It's there today, and it's known as the Fairweather Inn. George Christmas Store was described as the News Bureau, the university, the social settlement of the hamlet, to which intelligent, genial companionship and a wide fireplace gave cheerful welcome. Of course, these audiences were composed wholly of Miles. It is believed that Henry Plummer had his offices in the back of the building. Skinner's Saloon, originally built on Yankee Flat side, where Skinner moved this building to Bannock's Mine Street in the spring of 1863. It became the popular gathering place for Henry Plummer's road agents. Graves and Murphy operated a store in this building. After Cider Skinner was hanged by the vigilantes for many years, it was occupied by John McMean and A.F. Wright, who did a brisk business in the sale of general merchandise. Most of the men suffered from the lack of female companionship. They missed the warmth and comfort only a woman could provide. Men came to town on pie-dye to spend their hard-earned money, and the women were eager to accept it. Some of the first women to arrive in Bannock were ladies of easy virtue. Some were in search of a husband, but the majority came for the same reason as the men, money and adventure. These ladies generated a great deal of excitement among the male populace. They moved into the available shacks, cabins, and went to work at what they did best. They provided a multitude of services not limited to warmth and comfort. A hurdy-gurdy girl was the most legitimate occupation a woman could have in the early mining camps. Hurdy-gurdy girls were not always ladies of the evening. Most of the women were kind-hearted, and often a miner could be found sitting in the lady's cabin while she mended his socks or sewed buttons on his shirt. As Bannock began to develop economically, it was also developed socially. While the Masonic Lodge served as a social outlet for the men, there also were other diversions which men as well as respectable women could attend. Balls and dancing parties were held 2 and 3 times a week. These parties offered pleasant entertainment to all the ladies, married or single, as well as the children. Best suits packed in the bottom of the trunks were dragged out and aired and pressed for those festive occasions. The waltz, the Scottish, and the polka, the Virginia Reel, and the quadrille were the popular dances of the time. The men and women of Bannock also held the opportunity to partake in other socially acceptable entertainment. Traveling theaters and circuses occasionally stopped in town and provided further diversion. Bannock also had a baseball team. They were quite professional and played other rural communities such as Argentia and Mill Point. Ice skating was another pastime that young and old alike participated in. On Saturday evenings, the whole town would turn out to skate. Scrap, lumber, and sagebrush was gathered, and a huge bonfire was set afire on the banks of the creek. Oftentimes it was well below zero. Henry Plummer came to Bannock in the spring of 1862. He spent time in San Quentin prison. The year before, he soon gained the trust of the people in Bannock and was elected by the miners' court to serve as sheriff of the bustling gold town. He immediately organized his group of followers, approximately 25 of them, into fraternities they called the Innocents, so called because they agreed to always plead their innocence in the unlikely event of their arrest. Unconcerned with the public opinion, they boldly identified themselves with a black handkerchief tied in a sailor's knot